Good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in on October 24th, 2021. We had another fantastic day of college football. I am very happy to be here as I've been a little sick over the past week, so I'm excited about being up and being back to getting close to being a human being. And we're going to break down everything that went down in the world of college football yesterday. A couple of games on Thursday and Friday. In fact, Coastal Carolina, who's had a tremendous run the past few years, did go down to Appalachian State by a field goal. So that happened before Saturday. And then yesterday, we'll go ahead and get into it and start breaking down what happened on Saturday. First game that I want to touch on is the Big 12 action. I got to be honest, didn't think that the Oklahoma Sooners were going to struggle and have problems with the Kansas Jayhawks. I did not anticipate that. I thought since they made the move at quarterback and decided to go with Williams, that the offense would continue to improve and keep on progressing. But it looked to me like they regressed and took a step backwards. Now, it's a good thing that Caleb Williams was the quarterback, because without him, they never would have won this game. However, I'm still very concerned about Boomer Sooner, and they just keep winning. However, it's not really pretty, and they did get the victory yesterday, 35-23. However, they were down for a big portion of this game. In fact, at the end of the third quarter, Kansas was up 17-14 and had most of the momentum. So, there's no doubt that this could have turned into an ugly victory or ugly defeat in a victory for Kansas had they been able to hold on. And to be honest, there was kind of some questionable calls at the end. I don't know how. Last week's game of Tennessee versus Ole Miss, you had the play where Corral got stopped. Tyler Barron took the ball out of his hands, ran it for a touchdown. The officials brought it back, said that there was a, stop in momentum, forward progress had stopped, and, took the touchdown off the board. And then yesterday, you had Kennedy Brooks, the running back for Oklahoma, clearly have his forward progress stopped. And a heads-up play, Caleb Williams took the ball out of his hands and just said, I'm going to go for it myself, and ran for the first down on a very crucial third down play. So I think it was a fourth down play. Correct me if I'm wrong out there, but I believe it was a fourth down play, and that could have spelled victory for the Kansas Jayhawks. And so, I had a little question about that call, but, they ended up still getting the victory, but I'm questioning whether or not Oklahoma is a top 4 team. I just don't know whether I could put them in my top 4. I guess now, with the way that college football has gone and with the way teams keep beating up on each other, due to the fact that they're undefeated, you have to still include them in the top 3, but I don't know, man. They struggled against Tulane in week 1 or 2. They've struggled throughout the season, and yesterday was no different. So we'll see what happens moving forward with them. I think they made the right choice. I think Caleb Williams is their best option at quarterback. What does that mean for Spencer Rattler? I don't know. Does he transfer? Does he try and put himself into the draft? That's something that we'll have to find out. But Caleb Williams is their best player. He is their best option at quarterback, and he's the reason they won. Another game that we're going to have to talk about as well today, and that I'm very happy to discuss, is the Pittsburgh Panthers taking down Dabo and the Clemson Tigers, 27-17. Clemson scored a touchdown late to make this game appear a little closer than it was. However, it was not this close. And the offensive struggles for the Clemson Tigers continue. Got to be honest, after watching this team play last year, I did not really expect them to have such difficulty on offense. I mean, it was a struggle every time they went out there on offense yesterday. DJ Uiagalelei was at one point pulled. He threw a shovel pass to the other team, became a pick six, I believe, and had another interception as well. So he did not look good. And Clemson as a whole has struggled on offense all season long, as I mentioned. And after the game, Dabo was asked, what happens now? He went back after he took DJ Uiagalelei out of the game. He did go back and put him back in after it went, they went down 27-10. They put DJU back in the game. He let him down for a touchdown to make it 27-17. And then Pittsburgh was able to run the clock out. And after the game, Dabo went into detail about how no one's job is safe. He did take a lot of the blame for the loss upon himself. He said that it all, starts and ends with me. I'm the head coach. And, if there's a loss to be had by this football program, I'm responsible for it. And, that's true, I guess. But they've got to figure some things out. I mean, I remember last year when Dabo was rating the Buckeyes 11th. Heck, I'm not sure if Clemson's 11th in the ACC at this point. And, it's just this team is a far cry from what we've seen in the past. I mean, they could have gone down to Boston College. They could have easily lost to Syracuse last week. This is not the same dominant Clemson team we've grown accustomed to watching play over the last 4, 5, 6 years. And it doesn't look like the ship is going to get righted at any time soon, at least not this year. They've got a lot of talented players. They've got a lot of recruits already coming in for next year. So I think at some point they will be back. But as far as this year goes, it's not looking good. And I wish I could sit here and explain to you the regression of DJ Uiagalelei, but I can't. I can't really tell you what happened between last year and this year that's caused his play to go backwards. Now, I can tell you that the offensive line has not been the same as it was last year. They were a dominant force. They were able to run over people. He was able to sit back in the pocket and take his time and find the open receiver, whereas this year there has not been that type of time available to him. So, that's one factor. I also think that there's just not as many playmakers. Justin Ross is not the same guy that he once was, in my opinion. Amari Rodgers is gone. Cordell Powell is gone. And some of these young guys just haven't really taken over those roles as a dominant playmaker. And so you get what you get when you lose people like that. And this is something that we've talked about on this show. Rico and I have gone over numerous times how, some of these teams lost a lot of folks to the NFL. We're talking about Alabama. We're talking about Clemson. We're talking about Ohio State. And some of these other teams were able to bring guys back, like Pittsburgh, for example, basically return their entire team from last year due to the COVID-free year, as it is. And that's made them a better team, and it's made these teams have the ability to compete and narrow the gap between Clemson and Ohio State and Alabama and some of these other teams. The gap is not as wide, and I think that's why you're seeing some of the parity that's existing. But kudos to Pat Narduzzi, the head coach at Pittsburgh. Kudos to Cody Pickett, the quarterback at Pittsburgh. He had a tremendous game, 25 of 39, 302 yards and 2 touchdowns, and basically just played steady, solid football all day long. was able to, possess the ball, run the clock out when they had to, and keep Clemson off the field once they got a lead and were able to maintain the victory. So congratulations to Pittsburgh. This is a team that we saw here in Knoxville earlier this year in a shootout of sorts, and they've continued to play well ever since their defeat versus Western Michigan, who's also a pretty good team, honestly. But ever since they lost to Western Michigan, Pittsburgh, that is, they've continued to play pretty good football. Now we had the retiring of Eli Manning, number 10 jersey yesterday, down in Oxford, Mississippi, and pretty cool, honestly, to have your jersey number retired right next to your dad's jersey. Pretty cool also that there's only 3 jersey numbers retired in all of Ole Miss history: Chucky Mullins, Archie Manning, and also Eli Manning. The only 3 numbers ever to be retired in Ole Miss football history. Pretty cool. And Eli's a really good guy. I'm really happy for him, and he seemed to enjoy getting the old number retired and getting to go back to the Grove down there. And pretty good game also. LSU jumped out front, was up 7-0, was driving, had the ball at the 3-yard line on 4th down, and Coach O, who's already been fired by LSU, I guess is playing with house money and decides to go for it on 4th and 3 and gets stopped. And then the game pretty much turned at that point, because instead of LSU being up 2 scores, Ole Miss took it down, scored on that drive from the 3, and never looked back. And Matt Corral, had himself another pretty good day. It's just Lane Kiffin is put something together down there. And the only thing that he was really lacking last year was a defense, and they were able to score with everybody. They were able to put points on the board at will, but they did have difficulty stopping people. And this year they do not. They've been able to score just the same clip that they did last season. However, this year they've been able to stop people. And you got to give Coach Kiffin some credit for the way that he's transformed that defense, the way that they've been able to bring in some players. They had some transfers come in. They had some graduate transfers join the team. Obviously, they've been recruiting since they took over, and since that staff took over at Ole Miss. And it's become a team that's pretty solid all the way around. And no longer are they just winning, shootouts 54-51 or 49-46 or whatever. They took care of business yesterday and held LSU to 17 points. And now, LSU's missing their top wide receiver, and it's not like the offense has been tearing things up all season. They certainly have struggled at times, but still a pretty good victory, and still got to give credit to Ole Miss. Ranked number 12, I think will probably move up, and looking like some good things to come on this team. I mean, I don't know. Every time I'm thinking about, is Ole Miss really that good? I watch them play again, and I have to say, I think they are that good. I think they're a solid football team. I think this is a team that can contend for the SEC and for the SEC West. I know they, fell a little bit short against Alabama, but I know that Coach Kiffin would love another shot at them. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see, what goes down next week. But I think that Ole Miss is here to stay. The question is Coach Kiffin here to stay? I mean, this is a guy who, for right or for wrong, has had trouble staying in the same location year after year. And some of that has been getting fired. Some of that has been, on his own accord and jumping around. He was here in Knoxville for 10 months, and the USC job came open, and guess what? The USC job is open again, and so is the LSU job. The team that they played yesterday. I don't know if anyone was paying attention, but that job is open too. So the question is, does Lane Kiffin stay put? Does he remain at Ole Miss and continue to build upon what he's already created, or does he move on and take a better job? I mean, let's be honest, USC, LSU traditionally have been more solid programs throughout than Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is a place that you can win, and he's proven it, and I think he can continue to win there if he stays. So we'll see if old Lane can stay put. Only thing Lane loves more than winning is hearing his name. So I'm sure he won't put those rumors to rest, and he will definitely continue to let his name be thrown out there for the LSU coaching job, as well as potentially the USC job. I personally don't think he's going to go back to USC. I don't think they're interested in bringing him back. Too much history there, too much turmoil on the tarmac. In case anybody doesn't remember, he was fired on the tarmac coming home after a brutal defeat against Arizona State. I just don't think you can repair all those relationships and start over. But I do think he's on the candidate list for LSU. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see if Ole Miss continues to play well, and if Lane continues to be their coach. But we'll see what happens. We got Joey Kent coming up 11:30. He's going to join us, talk a little bit about the Tennessee-Alabama game, talk a little bit about college football and where it's at. Joey, of course, is the all-time leading receiver at Tennessee Volunteer football history. Also one of the leading receivers in SEC history, one of the greatest players to ever play at UT, and also doing some great things now. So we'll have him talk about all of that with us at 11:30. I want to talk a little Big Ten football here. Crazy day in the Big Ten. I got to be honest, when I looked at this Penn State game, playing against Illinois, did not really see a potential for Penn State to go down. But, Sean Clifford, I think, is not 100%. He didn't look 100%. And, Coach Bielema had a game plan together. I don't know, if everybody remembers, but Coach Bielema at one time was one of the greatest coaches in the Big Ten, if not the best coach when he was at Wisconsin. This is a guy who year in and year out won his side of the conference, won the Big Ten conference, went to the Rose Bowl, had his team contending for national championships, one of the best running teams in the country every single year. And yesterday kind of showed us some glimpses of that. I believe I've got to check this because I don't want to say something that's incorrect here. So I want to double check my stats, but I believe that Illinois ran the ball 70 times yesterday. I mean, they were, that's called dedication to running the football. Yes, they ran it 67 times for 357 yards, 67 carries for 357 yards for the Fighting Illini. And they beat Penn State, the 7th-ranked team in the country, in 9 overtimes. Now, college football was trying to get rid of some of these long overtime games, and that's why they basically instituted the new rule that after the second overtime, you now have to go for 2. However, it didn't seem to matter yesterday because no one could pick up the 2-point conversion. So, pretty nuts, pretty crazy game. Got to give credit to Coach Bielema. I mean, Penn State, I believe, still is a good football team. However, their offense is not, not the caliber of a championship team. They're not a Big Ten championship offense. I think they've been exposed the past few weeks against Iowa. They had trouble, especially after Clifford went out with the injury. I didn't think he looked right all day long. Their offense struggled to get into rhythm and to find a purpose all around, and they lose to Illinois. So, the question is now, can Coach Bielema bring Illinois back? I mean, this is a program that really hasn't had much success since Coach Ron Turner was there, 10, 15 years ago. So can they get back to that? Can they get back to competing in the Big Ten? I think Coach Bielema can do it. Will they give him the time to do it? I don't know. Patience is not really a virtue in college football anymore. I think it's going to take him at least 5 or 6 years to be able to consistently beat teams like Penn State. But he got it done yesterday, and he beat Nebraska earlier this year as well. He did lose to Texas San Antonio, but, UTSA has proven to be a pretty good team throughout the rest of the year. So, that loss doesn't look quite as bad since it has gone down. But 2 good victories for Illinois so far. Took out Penn State, took out Nebraska, and definitely the most life we've seen out of Champaign in quite some time. Talking about the Buckeyes, 4, they did have a week off. So essentially with the bye now, I don't think it's been 16 years since Ohio State has lost a game coming out of the bye. 16 years they have not lost a game coming out of the bye. And Coach Ryan Day has still yet to lose a Big Ten conference game. Don't want to jinx him, but that's pretty impressive. He's in year 3. He's not lost a Big Ten game yet. They were playing Indiana yesterday, who we all know Coach Allen found some magic in a bottle last year and really, played well and had Michael Penix Jr. throwing the ball and leading Indiana to improbable victories. This year, it hasn't really gone that way. Penix is down, injured, out for the rest of the season for the 3rd time in his career. Feel horrible for the guy. I don't think he's necessarily injury prone. I just think he's gotten some bad luck and had some bad injuries that have come his way. But, this is still a good football player, and this is still a pretty good football team. But Jack Tuttle, the quarterback from California, who actually played in high school with Chris Olave, the wide receiver from Ohio State. In fact, that's how Coach Day and his staff were able to find Chris Olave. They actually went to recruit Jack Tuttle, the quarterback for Indiana, and saw Chris Olave play and were like, whoa, we got to offer this guy a scholarship right now. And the rest is history, because Chris Olave is one of the greatest players in Ohio State history, one of the greatest wide receivers in college football history, and just continues to dominate week in, week out. They were able to hang on to the victory yesterday, 54-7. If you look at it, they've now scored 50 points or more in 3 games in a row. They've essentially scored 50 points by halftime 3 weeks in a row, and could have scored 100 points against Rutgers, against Maryland, and now also against Indiana. So big kudos to the Buckeyes, and they're continuing to get better each week. It looks like to me the defense struggled on the first drive like they seem to always do, and then really came out and dominated after that. So I think they finished with 7 or 8 sacks, and that's the one thing that we were kind of worried about at the beginning of the season was, can they get home? Can they get to the quarterback and disrupt the passing game of the other team? And it looks like they can do that. Harrison was back in the backfield all day long. Obviously, Haskell Garrett was in the backfield all day long. The young guys, JT Talamula, Jack Sawyer, those guys are starting to really play. Jean Baptiste is starting to really contribute all the way around for the Buckeyes, and it looks like this team is getting better and on their way. One more game I want to touch on really quickly: homecoming in Ames, Iowa. Iowa State, team that was ranked in the top 10 coming into the preseason, really struggled out of the gates, lost 2 games pretty quickly, but has started to play good football. Their quarterback, senior Brock Purdy, has gotten better as the season has gone along, has really started to come into his own. Bryce Hall, their running back, has really found his way and found his groove and has started to play a lot better football. And they were able to take down Oklahoma State yesterday. Oklahoma State was undefeated, ranked number 8 in the country, riding pretty high on their own really good running back. But they lost 24-21 to Iowa State on homecoming in Ames, Iowa. So going to give a lot of credit to Coach Campbell and his staff for, sticking to the plan. Things started to come off the rails a little bit. They lost 2 games, like I said early. People were thinking maybe that they're falling apart a little bit. And, they didn't let them fall apart. They kept it together. And they were able to come and get a big victory yesterday and able to take down a really good Oklahoma State team. I think this is something we've kind of grown accustomed to seeing over the past few years in the Mike Gundy teams. They'll have some good weeks. They'll look good. They'll be undefeated. They'll get ranked, and then they'll, fall apart a little bit. So nothing new there, but still a good victory. They didn't really play a bad game. It was a close game, and it was a really big time game in the Big 12. So we'll see what continues to happen in the Big 12. Obviously, Oklahoma is still kind of controlling that fight. And, now with things, falling apart a little bit for Oklahoma State, it's pretty much anybody's race going forward. And there's a lot of teams that are still in this thing in the Big 12. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what what the rest of the season looks like. We'll see if the Oklahoma State Cowboys can regroup, as they've still got some talented players. I mean, Sanders, their quarterback, still had a really good day yesterday. 15 of 24, 225 yards, 3 touchdowns. Their running back Warren was held 18 carries, 76 yards. Not the best day for him, but Presley, their number 1 wide receiver, still had a really good day. He had 6 catches for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. So still a team that can score some points and get some things done on offense. And, their defense played pretty well too yesterday. I mean, holding Iowa State to 24 should have been enough for them to win if they were able to score what they're, regularly putting out on the table. So we'll see what happens there. Want to give a shout out really quick too to Wake Forest. Yesterday, Wake Forest now is 7-0, and I think a team that a lot of people are overlooking, a team that a lot of people maybe don't believe in. But Wake Forest is 7-0. They took out Army yesterday, 70-56. Not a whole lot of defense in this one. But I do want to give my my Player of the Day award out to quarterback Sam Hartman from Wake Forest. 23 of 29, 458 yards and 5 touchdowns. So a big day for the quarterback at Wake Forest, a big day for Wake Forest. And they've got a chance now to win the ACC. So, I think they've got as good a chance as anybody, and we're going to see if they can get it done. But they have played well so far. They're 7-0, and a good victory against a good Army team yesterday. And Army's defense apparently failed to show up on the bus, but they did put up 56 points of offense. So we'll give them some credit. We look like we've got Mr. Joey Kent joining us right now. I'm going to bring him in. Joey.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Joey. You hear me okay?
I hear you fine. How are you?
I'm doing really good, sir. Wanted to get right into it with you and talk a little bit about the ball game yesterday. I didn't know if you got a chance to see Alabama and Tennessee go down. Looked like a pretty good game there for the first 3 quarters.
Yeah, it really was, man. And the final score really is not indicative of how that game was played. I was actually at an event last night, and I was watching it on my phone. So I didn't get a chance to hear, the commentators and all that good stuff. And I was trying to keep up with it, but I watched a little bit. I recorded it last night, so I watched a little bit of it this morning. So I like the way Tennessee played, man. It didn't seem like the last couple of years where we just knew it was just going to be a slaughter, right? I think the guys came in ready. The coaching staff really prepared them to compete against Alabama, but we just ran out of manpower, right? So we all know Alabama is they have really quality depth, right? And they have really good frontline players, and they proved it throughout the ball game. So I'm proud of the effort that Tennessee displayed last night. They're going to build off this. Now, hopefully they'll gain some confidence, right? They can play with anybody in this conference, but we still have to get more. We still have to get better players, and once we do that, we'll be fine.
Yeah, and I think I agree with everything you say, and I really, Rico and I have been talking the last few weeks how the only problem that we've seen, or the biggest problem we've seen, is the depth. The coaching. To me, I went to the South Carolina game and was just blown away by the way that they came out. I mean, the game plan looked solid, the scheme looked amazing, and heck, I think it was 38-0, before South Carolina got on the board, and just really good scheming and game planning by Coach Heupel. I think he's a guy that can actually put the right guys on the field, and kind of determine talent. But with the attrition and with the guys leaving, transferring, and obviously 36 players lost from last year's team, I think that the depth is probably the biggest problem. But watching the last 2 weeks, I really think we can say that the team's moving in the positive direction, don't you think?
I 100% agree. And, everything is about recruiting now, right? So, we lost, like you said, close to 40 players through the transfer portal. Guys are looking at high school guys and guys that are playing on different teams now. They're looking at this program in a different light, I would think, right? If I'm a high school offensive player or defensive player, man, you have to look at it with some excitement. And you have an opportunity to play, too, because, we only have 70 scholarship players, and we're playing some walk-ons on special teams. So if you're a high school athlete, junior, senior, I would definitely put Tennessee on the list if you want to play some really good football in a school that has ton of tradition. Like you said, the coaching staff are putting the guys in the right positions, right, to make plays on both sides of the ball. We talk a lot about Heupel's offense, but look at the defense, man. We've given up some plays here and there, especially against Ole Miss. Corrales, he's doing that against anybody, right? And he put up a lot of yards against us, but just overall, the defense is looking a lot better. We just need to get some more guys, man. And once we do that, man, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And talking about all the players that we lost, and how the game's changed. Obviously you played on this team and you dominated for so long, and the game was what it was. But now, things are different. And talk to me a little bit about how you think the game has changed and how the transfer portal can help a team like Tennessee get right and maybe fix some of the things with their depth and with some of their positional woes.
I think mainly with the transfer portal, you can get better faster, because when I played, obviously you didn't have that, so you just kind of counted on your recruiting, and you had to count on guys developing, right? And developing is still key. I think this staff has done obviously a better job of developing the talent that they have and putting guys in the right positions. But now you can go out and like say a Spencer Rattler, right? Who's probably not going to see the field unless the starter gets hurt. Like he's kind of in no man's land right now. So a guy like that, not saying he would consider Tennessee, but a guy like that's super talented, that wants to leave that program. Obviously, Tennessee would love to have a player like that, but you can get good really fast with a player like that. He was a Heisman, candidate coming into the season, and a guy like that can change anybody's program, right? You put him in the right situation. So, you take the transfer portal, combine it with, high school athletes, you can get good really fast. Look at Kentucky. Like Kentucky has kind of done it the right way. They've recruited well, really good coaching, and they've added some guys, especially in the quarterback position, and it's made them, a top 15 program right now. And you can get good really fast, man. That's what Tennessee fans are hoping for. We've been saying next year, and we're young for the last 10, 15 years. I think Tennessee fans are excited now versus the last couple 3 or 4 years. You kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, and with the guys and the coaching staff that we have now.
I agree. I think this is the first coaching staff that we've had here in Knoxville in a long time that looks like, they know what they're doing. And I've been very impressed. First off, like I mentioned before, with picking the players. I mean, Joe Milton started at the beginning of the year, but, I think he had to see what he had. And he put Joe out there. He put Hooker out there. And obviously Hooker has proven to be a really, really good player.
And Nathan, another point, I mean to cut you off. Another point, man, is these guys seem like they're having fun.
Yeah.
And they like playing for the staff, right? They enjoy each other. I think that was one of the biggest keys when I was playing, man. We, the guys on our team, we genuinely loved each other and wanted to play for each other. And we held each other accountable.
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously I'm not on the inside of that program. I'm just like everybody else outside looking in, but just body language, excitement, being happy for your teammate. You can see that. Like that comes off the screen. Like, 3 or 4 years ago, the quarterback got hit, got sacked, and the offensive line wouldn't even help him up. Right?
Yeah, just stared at him on the ground.
Yeah. I mean, that's that type of stuff you kind of pay attention to. But you see the way they play, you see the way they get excited when somebody else does well, or somebody makes a play. That bodes well for the program, because it shows that they care.
Yeah,
it shows that they care about each other, and it shows that they care about the staff.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And one thing that I was talking about a little bit earlier on the show, and Rico and I have been talking about all year, is there's been a little bit of maybe 3 or 4 teams in the country in college football have kind of been dominating the past few years. Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, maybe even throw Oklahoma in there. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I've been saying, and I want you to shoot a hole in this if you think, but I feel like this past year kind of leveled the playing field a little bit and created some more parity, because, the free COVID year, a lot of teams were able to bring back guys for an additional free year and improve their football team, in certain positions if they needed to. Whereas, Alabama lost all those guys to the NFL. Ohio State lost all those guys. Clemson still lost all those guys, 10, 12 guys to the NFL. And some of these other teams were able to catch up. You see any truth in that statement at all?
Yeah, some validity to that. I mean, look at a team that we played, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a team with a lot of talent, but that also has a lot of experience, starting with the quarterback Pickens.
Yeah.
To me, man, he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I don't know how he's going to project as far as on the next level, but he's so solid. He makes all the plays, all the throws, and he's so steady for that program. He's the reason why, along with some of our own mistakes against them, he's the reason why we lost, right? I mean, he's the main reason. He made all the plays that they needed to make to beat Tennessee. Again, we helped them, right? We missed some throws, and in my opinion, we should have been up 14, 21 points in the first quarter. Missed some throws, but he brought that team back. He was steady. There's definitely some validity to what you're saying, man. It's a lot of experience in college football. Look at Kentucky too. Same thing, man. And hopefully Tennessee can benefit from some of that as well.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, the quarterback at Pittsburgh, he's a guy who's been in those situations and had the spotlight thrust on him, to win games. And we saw that in the Tennessee game. We saw it yesterday.
Yeah,
when they were ahead against Clemson.
Yeah,
and he went out there. They had the ball. There was about 4 minutes left, and he ran the clock out. Yeah. Because he knew how to take care of the football and how to get the ball to guys, his guys that he trusts. And that was really impressive. And, another thing I wanted to touch with you a little bit out on is, obviously 2019, LSU, we all saw Joe Burrow transferred down. Everything went right. they had one of the greatest seasons in college football history. 20 months later, they fired their coach. Is patience gone from college football? Because it seems to me, that's the one thing I worry about. We see this Coach Heupel. He's shown that he looks like he really can coach. But will they give him enough time? And, that's one thing that I really see as a potential problem throughout all of college football is there is no more patience. You agree with that?
Well, to a point, I think with Tennessee's situation, I think he signed a 5 or 6 year deal. So that shows me they're going to give him some time. You have an AD that obviously that hired him, that believes in him. So that's going to give him more of a chance. With LSU, I mean, that's just a different beast. They're a top 3 program. If you just kind of look at the talent in the state, the championships they've won recently. I think with Coach O, I think it was more having to do things that were happening off the field. There's I think there's a lot of stuff behind that, right? And I think all that stuff is going to eventually come out. There's stuff that's out there now. I just think the program is at a place where they just can't. They're fearful if they keep him at the helm, it'll just continue to go down and go down a path where they won't be able to recover as fast. So they want to cut ties now, say thank you for what you've done. Obviously, they're going to pay him his money and kind of start fresh, man. And I mean, there is some, SEC, man, it's tough. I mean, college football is tough to be a head coach. You get paid, really well, but there's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure.
Is there another profession in the world that you get paid to fail? Because I keep trying to find someone that'll pay me
sign me up
$1 million to not work, and it just blows me away that these guys, if everything goes right, they get extensions, they get paid, but if they do a bad job and things fall apart, well, then they get paid $17 million to go away. How does that come off?
It's a great profession, but I do, I know we're kind of joking, but I do have some friends that are in, not necessarily head coaches, but are assistant coaches, in college football, and it's a grind, man. It's a 365, like every single day I equate it to like dating, 15 people at the same time, because you have to call and text every single day, with these recruits in high school. Like you have to call and text and make sure they're getting attention. This is every single day of the year, right?
Oh yeah.
Outside the dead period, whatever dead periods that they have, but it's a grind. They get paid well, man, but it's one of those deals, man. I couldn't do it because it takes a person that just absolutely love coaching. You have to love coaching to be in this, especially in college. That's why you see guys go from college to NFL, because you get the same coaching on a higher level, and you don't have to deal with the recruiting aspect of it, and you have more time with your family.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and it is a grind for sure, and these guys are paid accordingly. And let's be honest, college football brings in a lot of money, so I mean, these guys should get paid. But I wanted to piggyback off of that, because now they have this NIL, and where some of these players are being able to benefit off of that. And I wanted to get your feelings on that. And me and Rico have talked about it on this show a lot, and both of us are all for it. I think these kids should be able to start benefiting from it, but it also changes a lot of things. And wanted to get your thoughts on the new NIL rules and some of these kids starting to be able to get to make a little money.
Man, I love it, man. It's something that's overdue. I think the only thing that I'm fearful of is hopefully these programs, these universities have protocols in place where they teach kids financial literacy. I couldn't imagine, having $10,000 or $20,000 in my bank account in college.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that long, that's for sure.
I got into a lot of trouble with zero money in my bank account. I could imagine, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 in college, and you have adults that can't manage that type of money. Just think about a 18-year-old kid having that type of access to funds. So again, I'm all for it. I love it. I'm hopeful that these institutions have people that's guiding these young men and these young women on how to manage their money, taxes, just everything that comes with having that type of money in their bank account, man. But I'm all for it, man. I hope these guys get as much money as they can, because I think it's overdue.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's been the same people making millions of dollars for 50 years off all this college football stuff. So why not give some back to, what the people are really going to see every Saturday? They're going to see the players on the field. I mean, I know the coaches are a big part of it and they get paid handsomely, but let's be honest, the folks are showing up to see the athletic talent that the players possess. So wanted to let you talk a little bit too about what you got going on, man. Obviously you got your new show. Tell us a little bit about 3 the Pro Way.
Yeah, man, it's a podcast called 3 the Pro Way. It's me, myself, Kevin Dyson, and Todd Campbell. We've been friends for over 25 years, man. We just kind of talk about transitions from career. Like we typically have athletes and entertainers and people from all across business, the aspect of it, and we just get them on and let them tell their story about their transition from like professional sports to what they're doing now, and all the things that led them up to that, to being successful in both of those areas, man. We've been having a good time with it. We typically release these podcasts every Monday at 8 o'clock a.m. So we're excited about keeping this thing going, with our future guests.
Nice. And tell us too about that legendary play too. I've seen those prints, man.
Yeah, man. Cool. Well, thank you, man. I feel like I'm doing a promo now.
Hey, you gotta tell people about it.
I appreciate it, man. It's called That Legendary Play. It's a business that my business partner and I started last year during COVID, and people always ask me about play number 1, and I would always kind of talk people through it, like doing the X's and O's version of how the play kind of broke down. And that's where the idea came from. And we were like, okay, let's just put this on a print and just see where we can go from it. And then obviously Tennessee has other legendary plays, and so we did that same way. Then we started thinking like, well, other programs have obviously legendary plays too. So it's 18 by 24 print. We have 18 schools that we've done prints for. We're officially licensed through Tennessee, Florida State, Ole Miss, a couple other universities. We're trying to expand that, but we've been having fun with it, man. It's fun to kind of do these plays and put them on your wall and kind of talk about it, and from a nostalgia standpoint, man. So we're excited about where this is going to go.
Nice. Well, I love it, man. I love all you're doing. I appreciate you coming on today and giving us a few minutes and giving us some insights. You were an unbelievable player. I loved watching you play, and even a better guy, man. I appreciate you coming on today.
Hey, I got a question for you. What's up with UCLA? I like the number. What's up with UCLA?
Yeah, that's why I rocked it. Now, I wear game-worn jerseys. I'm a big game-worn jersey guy. So every day on the show, I rock out a brand new game-worn jersey. Just a different team, different player. And I'm running out of them right now. We've had a bunch of shows this year, so I'm running out. I've got hundreds of NFL ones, but I've got to increase my college a little bit. So
the reason why UCLA was one of my we played them twice when I was at Tennessee. That was one of my favorite teams to play, because it was just playing against a Pac-12 team. Yeah. Back then UCLA was, they were a pretty strong program, man. It was actually my first game starting out at the Rose Bowl against UCLA.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that game, and I try and collect only like the big time, beautiful jerseys like USC, Tennessee, Alabama, UCLA. The old school, colors and programs that have kind of kept the same uniforms throughout.
Those jerseys never go out of style. UCLA, USC, Alabama, Penn State, those jerseys are iconic, man. They never go out of style.
Heck yeah, man. I've got the, I do this, and I've got my regular job, and then I've got Schmidt Souvenirs, where I I buy, sell, trade game worn jerseys
Oh, that's
all the
awesome,
time.
man.
That's
That
my
is
passion,
awesome.
man. I love game worn jerseys, and I'm one of the crazy fools that wears them, as well as.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite?
Well, I'm originally from Ohio, so I'm a big I moved down here when I was a kid,
Okay.
and then I moved back to Ohio. So I'm a big Tennessee and Ohio State fan, and I've got a jersey from the 2014 national championship season, Curtis
Nice.
Grant. So that's
Hey, I got it. We have a Ohio State. We actually have 2 Ohio State prints, man. Just send me your address and I'll send them to you.
I will do it, man. I will do it. I appreciate you coming on, Joey.
Thank you for your time, man. Anytime.
All right, buddy. I'll stay in touch with you, and I'll shoot you a message after we get done.
Sounds good, man. Y'all take
All right,
care.
buddy. Have a great one. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. See you.
See. That was the all-time leading receiver in Tennessee football history, leader in receptions, leader in yards, leader in touchdowns, and as you notice right there, an amazing guy. He's a businessman. He's also a podcast host and has his own show, 3 the Pro Way, and played for the Tennessee Titans in the NFL for a while and did some broadcast work for them, and pretty much does it all. He's got a family and takes care of his kids, and man, he's a great guy, and I loved talking to him today, and loved having him on the show. I hope he'll come back on sometime because it was really cool to catch up with him, and I wanted to have him on the week of Tennessee and Alabama, because that was he was one of the biggest players in that rivalry's history at one point when Peyton Manning, the play that he was talking about, his company, the legendary play, they have a print of Joey, the play where Peyton Manning threw a touchdown to Joey Kent and was for the victory over Alabama. So that's kind of how his company got started and what he was talking about there, just to throw a little background into it. But one of the most legendary plays of Tennessee history. So really cool to get to talk to Joey today. And I hope he'll come back on the show again sometime, because he brings a lot to the table with his playing career and with his knowledge of college football. It was kind of cool to hear his perspective. But another great weekend of college football. We've got some really big time games on the docket next week. We're going to see what that team up north has got as they're going to play in East Lansing next weekend, as Michigan's going to play Michigan State. It's going to be a pretty big game. Ohio State is going to be hosting Penn State in the Scarlet Out game in the shoe. So we've got a couple of big time games going on in college football in the Big Ten. We've also got a lot of big time games going on still in the SEC and the Big 12 and all those conferences. Everybody's still pretty much alive at this point. I mean, nobody's season is over. I'd say probably that Michigan State game is the biggest game. It's going to be on at noon. I think everybody should tune into that one. But Georgia, Florida is also next week down in Jacksonville. That should be another pretty good game. And we'll see what all happens. Ole Miss plays Auburn. I think that's another game that could be pretty interesting. Obviously, like I mentioned, Penn State, Ohio State. So a lot of big games going on. A lot more college football action. We'll be here breaking it all down on man coverage. Me, Knoxville Nate, and my co-host Rico McCoy, who is missing today, but he will be back with us next week, hopefully, to help us out and break everything down like he always does. So we'll be looking forward to that. The one thing that I wanted to touch on real quick before we go, we're about to run out of time, but I did want to touch really quickly on one more game from yesterday. As we mentioned, there was a Wednesday night game. Appalachian State took down Coastal. And then SMU came in and beat Tulane 55-26. So SMU has looked pretty good. They are also undefeated, 7-0. They've got their quarterback, Tanner Mordecai, who had a tremendous game, 30 for 42, 427 yards, 3 touchdowns in the victory over Tulane. So SMU, another team, like we mentioned with Wake Forest, that is undefeated and still rolling. Maybe a team that can, make things happen and continue to make waves as we push forward in this college football season. So want to thank everybody for tuning in today to Man Coverage. I appreciate you all joining us on the show. Want to thank our guest, number 11, Joey Kent, one of the greatest players in college football history. Loved getting a chance to talk to him and having him on our show. Thought he brought a lot to the table and really enjoyed it. So hope everybody comes back next week, 11 a.m. Sunday. It'll be 10. What is that? No, it'll be November. It'll be November 1st. So, right? 30 days in October? No, 31 days. So, yeah, it'll be October 31st. I'm not real good at the calendar. But, yeah, October 31st, next Sunday, 11 a.m., Man Coverage. Join us here. All our same channels, YouTube channel, Twitter @man_coverage, and also on Facebook Live. Thanks to everybody, and have a great rest of your weekend.